Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what I like to call the paradox of power. We're going to unpack a really profound irony hidden inside an epic ancient text. It's this crazy idea that doing your job absolutely perfectly might actually be the most dangerous thing you could possibly do. Seriously. We'll be tracing the meteoric rise of an incredibly talented group of brothers, the Pandavas, and watching exactly how their absolute, unshakable perfection sets the stage for a spectacular psychological collapse. So think about this for a second. What happens when you do your job so incredibly well, it actually terrifies the person in charge? It's a dynamic we see all the time in modern boardrooms and politics, even just in everyday life, right? It's that deep-seated fear of being completely outshone by your own subordinates. But the source text we're breaking down today takes this super relatable psychological concept and just blows it up to an epic, kingdom-shattering scale. We're going to see firsthand how absolute loyalty and unmatched competence can literally warp the mind of a ruler the second he realizes he's no longer the most powerful person in the room. Now, our story actually kicks off on a wonderfully positive note. King Dhritarashtra makes what seems like a remarkably benevolent management decision. Moved by genuine kindness for his people, he installs his nephew, Yudhishthira, as the heir-apparent. And he doesn't just do this randomly either. The text specifically calls out Yudhishthira's firmness, his fortitude, his patience, benevolence, frankness, and his unswerving honesty of heart. I mean, it is the ultimate merit-based promotion. And Yudhishthira, he definitely doesn't just rest on his laurels. Within a really short amount of time, through flawless manners and a really close application to the actual business of ruling, he completely overshadows the legacy of his own father. He's the perfect successor. But, as we're about to see, he isn't exactly working alone. What's truly fascinating here is how this builds into what is essentially a superhero origin story for Yudhishthira's brothers. They aren't just a regular group of siblings, they're a highly specialized, absolutely elite military force. Take Dhritarashtra, for instance, also known as Bhima. He trains under Sankarsana and completely masters the sword, the mace, and the chariot, becoming as strong as the legendary Dumatsena himself. Then you have Sahadeva, who goes a totally different route, learning the entire science of morality and duties from Vrihaspati, the spiritual chief of the Celestials. And finally, Nakula, the favorite, who was taught by Drona to become an incredibly skillful warrior, a great car warrior known as an Ati-Ratha. They're living in perfect harmony, this unified force where every single brother brings a masterclass level of expertise. But even among this incredibly elite group, there is one standout prodigy, Arjuna. The text makes it abundantly clear that he becomes universally celebrated for his firmness of grasp, his incredible lightness of motion, and his absolute pinpoint precision of aim. But honestly, it's his sheer versatility that's staggering. He masters a massive array of weapons: the kshora, the naracha, the vala, the vipyatha. Straight weapons, crooked weapons, heavy weapons, it simply doesn't matter. He masters the whole shebang. His mentor, Drona, even goes on the record certifying in front of everybody that there is absolutely no one in the entire world equal to Arjuna in lightness of hand and general proficiency. He is peerless, period. And because he's peerless, he is about to be handed the most dangerous asset in existence. This right here raises the stakes to an apocalyptic level. Drona decides to pass down the ultimate weapon, something he actually received from his own teacher, Agnivesa. It's called the Brahmasira. Now, this isn't just a cool sword or a heavy bow. It is a celestial weapon obtained through ascetic merit that is literally described as being like thunder itself and capable of consuming the entire earth. We are talking about a weapon of mass destruction, and Drona gives it to Arjuna with a chillingly strict warning. You must never, ever hurl this weapon at any human being, especially not at someone of poor energy. It's a terrifying responsibility, entrusted only to the absolute best. But this incredible gift comes with a massive catch that nobody sees coming. And this brilliantly illustrates the dark turn our narrative takes. Drona demands his preceptorial fee, basically his payment for teaching Arjuna and handing over this apocalyptic weapon. And he does this publicly, right in front of all of Arjuna's assembled cousins and relatives. First, he makes Arjuna pledge his word to pay the fee, whatever it turns out to be. And once Arjuna promises, Drona drops this absolute bombshell of a quote. "O sinless one, thou must fight with me when I fight with thee." The teacher is demanding that his ultimate student agree to a future fight to death as payment for his education. It's bizarre, it's shocking, and it immediately sets the stage for this inevitable tragic conflict between mentor and student. So, how does the greatest warrior in the world react to being told he's going to have to one day fight his beloved teacher? His response is chillingly calm and perfectly obedient. He doesn't argue, he doesn't flinch, he simply pledges his word, touches Drona's feet in a traditional sign of deep respect, and calmly heads north. It's this absolute composure in the face of a terrifying destiny that completely cements his legend. Following this moment, the text actually tells us a loud shout covers the entire earth, bounded by her belt of seas, proclaiming that there is no bowman in the whole world equal to Arjuna. His status is now globally undisputed, and he is about to prove exactly why. What follows in the text is just a dizzying, overwhelming blitzkrieg of military conquests. The Pandavas, now fully realized in their power, absolutely roll over the surrounding kingdoms. They slay the great Sauvira, a king so powerful he just finished a 3-year sacrifice totally undaunted by celestial raids. Defeated. Then Arjuna goes straight after the king of the Yavanas. Now, this is crucial. This is an enemy that even Arjuna's own super-powerful father, Pandu, had completely failed to subdue. But Arjuna brings him under control. Then he makes King Vipula, who had always disrespected their kingdom, violently feel the edge of his power. He represses King Sumitra with his arrows. The sheer volume and speed of these victories is just staggering. They are an unstoppable force of nature, completely wiping out all opposition. And they don't just win individual skirmishes, they execute massive, flawless, continental campaigns. Arjuna and Bhima team up on a single chariot and utterly subjugate all the kings of the East, defeating armies backed by 10,000 enemy chariots. Then Arjuna just goes it alone. He conquers the entire South on a single chariot. And what do they do with all this unbelievable power and victory? They follow their duties perfectly. They extend the borders of their own kingdom and send massive, unprecedented amounts of booty and wealth right back home to their monarch, King Dhritarashtra. They did exactly what was asked of them, flawlessly expanding the empire and making their boss incredibly rich. But now we've reached the climax of our paradox. Let's think back for a second to how this all started. King Dhritarashtra, moved by kindness, recognizing virtue and honesty, happily installed the new heir, right? But now, what's the actual result of the brothers executing their jobs with absolute flawless perfection and loyalty? Beholding the great prowess and strength of these mighty bowmen that he himself empowered, the king's sentiments become, in the exact words of the text, suddenly poisoned. Their perfection didn't earn his gratitude. It literally broke his mind. The psychological toll of this realization is immediate, and it is devastating. The text states incredibly plainly, from that day forward, the monarch became so anxious that he could hardly sleep. Just imagine the creeping dread he must be feeling in the dead of night. He's lying awake, realizing that the young men he promoted, the forces he helped train and validate, are now completely unstoppable. Sure, they're loyal today, they're bringing back massive wealth and conquered lands today, but what about tomorrow? He realizes he's created a paradigm where his own power is entirely eclipsed by his subordinates. The very success that saved and expanded his kingdom is the exact thing destroying his peace of mind. Which brings us to our final, provocative question for this explainer. If doing everything right, if achieving absolute perfection and bringing incredible value to your organization actually makes you a target, how do you survive success? The story we've unpacked today shows us that competence and loyalty aren't always rewarded with trust. Sometimes they're rewarded with a deep, poisonous envy. When your brilliance terrifies the person in charge, the rules of the game change entirely. It's a chilling paradox of power, perfectly illustrated by this ancient text, and it definitely leaves us wondering just how destructive the fallout of that poisoned, sleepless anxiety is going to be. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the dynamics of power around you.